later on. It'll be posted later on our YouTube um, um, channel, and then we will be sure to get the link to everybody. So I'm Mike Jones. I work for West Virginia Rivers as the Public Lands Campaign Coordinator. I have the best job in the world. I get to talk about all of our wild and wonderful, beautiful West Virginia public lands, and also get to advocate for some good common sense sorts of policy solutions to some of the concerns that we have in public lands. So today, we're going to present 4 facts and 3 concerns about our West Virginia public lands. Fact number 1, there simply are all kinds of public lands. Our cities and counties all have public lands. When you go play soccer, little league baseball, go hiking, have a picnic in your city or community or county park, those are public lands. Our state, as you know, has vast types of public lands. We have 35 state parks, 9 state forests, 96 wildlife management areas, and 3 rail trails, all of which are open for recreation and enjoyment. And we also have America's newest national park, the New River Gorge National Park and Preserve. We have the extensive Mon National Forest, and we have even small portions of the George Washington and Jefferson National Forest, all of which are part of our West Virginia public lands. But it's important to realize when you talk about West Virginia state parks and forests, see that little tiny blue sliver, that little 1%? That's how much of West Virginia we're setting aside in our public lands and our public forests for our enjoyment and for recreation purposes. Fact number 2, whether you're talking about the off-photographed mill at Babcock, or the Blackwater Falls, or the beautiful vistas of Dolly Sod, West Virginia public lands simply are unique and they're irreplaceable. That's why we set these lands aside. That's why we keep these lands and we hold them and own them and have them in public trust. They're colonial and Civil War historic sites, iconic waterfalls, wonderful hiking trails. We have Depression era Citizen Conservation Corps constructed trails and cabins, wildlife preserves, wilderness. All of our public lands have a tradition and heritage of non-motorized recreation use, of hunting, fishing, boating, hiking, hunting in the forest, and wildlife management, of course, camping and other types of recreation activities. Now, I did promise you some trivia, so hopefully you know where the chat box is in Zoom. We've all done this a time or two now. So here are some trivia questions. What was our first state land? Where did Aaron Burr hide out after the Hamilton duel? And this is 2 questions, 2 different answers. What is the largest state forest? And at the same time, what is our smallest West Virginia state park? So I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to think about that and answer that. Go ahead and throw some answers in the chat. Okay, got a couple of guesses coming in. Give everybody another couple of seconds to think about this, answer that. Still looking for what was our first acquired state public land? What is our largest state forest? And what is the smallest West Virginia state park? Everybody ready for some answers? Droop Mountain was the first public land We acquired it in 1928, dedicated in 1929. It was about the same time as starting the Mon Forest and beginning to preserve and protect our particularly there. Aaron Burr did hang out at Lindenhasset Island Historic Park, which can still only be reached by a paddle boat from the Parkersburg area. Our largest state forest is actually also our first state forest, that's Seneca State Forest. And our smallest state park, there's a tie. There's two of them, and Fairfax Stone is one of them, and 280. We are both about the same size. So thanks for participating in that trivia. And so let's go on to another very important fact about our public lands. Just take a moment and look at this. It's a song, it's a tourist slogan. But just imagine hiking through mossy Kanawha State Forest, listening to the three waterfalls at Hills Creek, gazing up into the dark sky vastness at Watoga. Our public lands truly are almost heaven. But there are some concerns, and these are concerns that we deal with, and we're advocating for reasonable and sensible public policies. Our biggest concern right now is off-road vehicles. Motorized trails are expensive to build, they're expensive to maintain. They require additional enforcement. They are simply something we cannot afford. Off-road vehicles create problems to soil, to our streams, to our habitats, all of which are important for hunting, fishing, hiking, all of our recreation activities. There was testimony during the interim committee hearings last fall that when you let off-road vehicles into public lands, what happens is all other uses get displaced. And that becomes a concern because where do people hike? Where do they fish? Where can they camp? Where can they do all of the things that we look to for our state parks? It's a battle that we're currently fighting. Senate Bill 468 is pending in the Senate Outdoor Recreation Committee. There's been attempts to amend that bill to allow off-road vehicles into all our forests. We currently have an action alert out, which I believe will be shared in the chat soon, which sends a message to all of the members of the Senate Outdoor Recreation Committee that no, we do not want off-road vehicles in any of our public lands. We don't want them in the parks, we don't want them in the forests, we don't want them in the wildlife management areas, and we don't want them on our rail trails. If you haven't done that action alert yet, I would invite you to do that. One click and you send 11 messages, and please feel free to share that action alert onto your friends and neighbors and other people that are concerned about preserving our public lands. Our second concern is just simply everything that we talk about in these lunch and learns and through West Virginia rivers all affect our public lands. West Virginia is 78% forested. State and national forests are important for carbon storage, but the older trees, the older growth areas may be subject to clear cutting in national forest projects. PFAS, we're learning, are in the source water in over 100 locations. That includes for the Blackwater Falls State Park and other state lands. We want clean stream waters. We want our waters in our public lands to have the same careful attention. The Mon National Forest now is keeping 12 stream segments free flowing and recognizing their outstanding, remarkable values. We want to have these West Virginia traditions assured in the future. And we're always struggling to balance economic concerns against the value of these public lands. For example, there's a plan to expand Yeager Airport. Picture on this slide is Coonskin Park in Kanawha County. It's a little county local park, but this beautiful forested area in this picture would be taken and destroyed if Yeager Airport expands. And our third concern that we'd like to bring to you today is funding. We support increased funding for local, state, and national public lands. Public lands in this state only bring in about 75% of the cost. And actually, West Virginia is about the best here because the national average is about 60%. But there's some state lands that will just never be revenue producing, like Fairfax Stone that we've already talked about, for example. At the same time, the usage has gone up because of COVID. It went up dramatically as people needed somewhere to go and recreate that was safe at the worst of the COVID pandemic. And the cost for the budgeted items have increased also. But state budgets in West Virginia have remained flat with very little increase for public lands. And there's estimates that there's at least 25 million unfunded needs, maintenance, and other improvements that we just simply haven't found the money to do yet. So we hope that funding will increase for our public lands. Now, I'm sure you remember that the title of this was 4 Facts and 3 Concerns, but we've only done 3 facts and 3 concerns. I wanted to save the last fact for last because in a way, it's really the most important story about West Virginia public lands. And that is citizen action makes a difference. You're going to see on this slide, there aren't pretty pictures of our public lands and that sort of stuff. And there's a reason for that. It's because your picture goes here. This is your story. You have stood up for our public lands the way we like them. You have answered the action alerts like for that's in the chat for keeping off-road vehicles out of our public lands. And we have a long history of the citizen action making a difference. Last year, there was a House bill, 4408. When it first was filed, it basically would allow any type of development on our state public lands. As a result of your response, your citizen action, one state senator called it the biggest stir in Charleston in 2022. It made a difference. There was important improvements to that bill, safeguards, guardrails, and public knowledge and notice and that sort of thing. So it made a bill much better and much more helpful to our public lands. And this year, we talked about the action alert. Each senator on Outdoor Recreation Committee has already received over 470 messages. Each senator has received over 470 messages. No off-road vehicles on our public lands. Again, I would remind you that this is an ongoing legislature. We're in the middle of it. Senate Bill 468 is still in front of Outdoor Recreation Committee. We've not won this battle yet. So please, please keep spreading the word. So, in conclusion, do you love your public lands? I would invite you to get involved. Keep calling and messaging, but there's other things to do. Visit our public lands, use them, enjoy them. We own them, we lease them, they're for us. We should use them. West Virginia Rivers has a district advocate program. Join it. Talk to your legislator one-on-one about how you use public lands and how important public lands are to you. There's all kinds of need in our public lands for volunteers. There's numerous groups that are working on your favorite public land, the Friends of, the Foundation in support of. Support those groups, volunteer with those groups. We have resources. Read more about it, about public lands at westvirginiarivers.org/public lands. Sign up for our public lands news. We're going to put that link also. We just put that link on our bulletin board. And anytime that I can be of any help or you're aware of any situation, pick up the phone and call me, shoot me an email. My information's right up there. we're here to help you help our public lands. And you know, it's not just me thanking it. It's that cute Mon Forest bear that says, thank you for your love of public lands. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing and we'll open it up to any questions. I know there's been some questions in the chat, so